the police officer who was caught on tape pepper spraying the female protesters has been identified, and he's been identified by the group Anonymous. So they identified him as Deputy Inspector Anthony Baloney.
Yeah, you were right, Ben.
Fascinating
you were
name.
right. Ben called that one.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he is currently being investigated for false arrest and civil rights violations from a 2004 protest at the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, here's one thing. Look, I looked at the video. I watched it like 5 times now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what those women were doing, but they didn't deserve to get pepper sprayed.
No.
Under any circumstance, and they did. But the only problem, slightly, with Tony Baloney is that, like, you can't just in a thing mention that he's under 2004. I mean, cops get accused of stuff all the time, and it's good that there's a process that needs to be investigated, needs to be taken seriously. But one accusation from 2004, and you're like, civil rights violations, that does not, we cannot cast an aspersion that this is like a dirty cop. We don't know.
You can cast an aspersion after you see him
if he's the guy, whoever
with
pepper sprayed him,
insufficient reason to pepper spray.
And then check it out. Like, the important part of the video is that, like, so back it up a little bit. Can you guys do that? Right after they get pepper sprayed, to the right of the screen, you'll see these cops in white shirts. Mm-hmm. Like, at the moment of the public's despair when they're injured, these cops, they clear out.
Yes.
Like, they're like, gotta go, another call. Something else is going on somewhere else. Like, you would think that at that moment, maybe you should stay in the vicinity, but there's these cops, I guess, and they're the cops who we think, or one of the cop who did it.
Yeah.
But these guys, like, they leave the scene, like, oh,
They do.
got my pepper spray, gotta get out, gotta go to Starbucks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, rather than helping them. In fact, there was another woman who was standing by the 2 female protesters, and she wasn't directly sprayed in the face. However, just being in that vicinity made her feel the effects of being pepper sprayed, right? So she was in pain. She was, like, tearing up, asking people for water, and she kept noticing that police officers weren't doing anything about it, right? So last weekend alone, there were 80 people that were arrested due to the protests, and the protests are gaining some traction, okay? They are not only happening in Lower Manhattan, they are now happening in major